Brian. Good afternoon, Brian.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. Can I have your call sign for me?
You bet. November 5, Zulu Golf Tango.
Very good. Where are we?
We're at Quaking Aspen Campgrounds, just a couple miles outside of Fort Wingate, New Mexico. It's field day weekend and got a team here in the nice, cool mountains. Unfortunately, some bugs because of all the precipitation we've had this spring, but doing field day this weekend remotely.
Great, great. Well, we're here for episode 7, Yhamradio. And at the age of 12, you became licensed. Tell us about your introduction to this wonderful hobby.
My introduction was twofold. One, my grandfather used to be an amateur radio operator. At the time, he told me about amateur radio. He did not have his license. He let it expire. But at that time, I was listening to scanners and then did the CB thing like a lot of hams did, and then quickly got disgusted with that and was looking for something new to do. And my grandfather caught wind of it and told me about this hobby that he was involved in back in the day. So he told me about amateur radio, and then I became licensed, and secretly he studied and got his license back, and so that led to a pretty fun hobby to enjoy with my grandfather. The other aspect of getting introduced to amateur radio was through the son of my mentor, J. Miller W5WHN. His son Jeremy and I were in the same scout troop, and he brought a radio in during one meeting as part of his board of review for rank, and I kind of caught eye of it and was fascinated right from the get-go. And our next camp out was winter camping, and he took it out for that trip and got to see amateur radio at play right then and there in the field, and that was just a really enjoyable thing.
During scouting?
During scouting, yes.
Yeah, that's a big part of scouting nowadays, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of amateur radio within scouting. One, the Radio Merit Badge has always been around, and there's a very dedicated amateur radio aspect of that badge. Mm-hmm. But then events such as Jamboree on the Air, which happens every October. It's a worldwide scouting event. And then National Scout Jamboree, where there's K2BSA, and of course the ARRL engaged in a pretty substantial memorandum of understanding with the Boy Scouts of America to expand amateur radio and scouting the programs, because they're very interrelated if you step back and look at it in a good way.
Sure. Okay, you were the recipient of the 1997 Newsline Young Ham of the Year Award. Tell us a little about that.
That award is administered by Newsline, as the name implies, and it's an award that recognizes a young amateur radio operator who really contributes to the amateur radio community. And I was fortunate to be nominated for it back in '97 and was selected for it, and it was an incredible honor to get an award like that as a young ham, a national award, and it really struck me in that it wasn't such an award to recognize what I have done in amateur radio. I basically flipped it on its head and turned it into it's an expectation of continuing to do good things for the amateur community, to give back to the community and to the people who helped me along the way. If there's some way that I could return the favor by doing good in the amateur community.
Great.
And of course that award was created by Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF, who unfortunately just a few weeks ago left us way too early. A giant in amateur radio, and somebody that amateur radio really needs maybe a few dozen more, to be quite honest.
Absolutely.
Incredible guy.
You said on your website, ham radio is the best hobby, and I feel the same way. Tell us why you think so.
Well, because it is. Plain and simple. You'll be hard-pressed to find a hobby where you can get involved in so many different facets within the same hobby, meet so many people of varying backgrounds, both technically and non-technically. And just the sheer enjoyment that you can have. I always tell amateurs that I encounter that if they ever get bored in this hobby, that's their fault, because there is just so much stuff to do in amateur radio, and you can even claim that you've done it all and then circle back around and start all over, and it's like it's a brand new hobby again. And I'm involved in a lot of other things outside of amateur radio, and it's just not the same as ham radio in terms of so much to do, so much fun to have. It's timeless. You just cannot get bored with it.
Right. Well, that's a nice safe way into, why we are into ham radio. We're here at Field Day. What is Field Day for those viewers that aren't into the hobby, and why do we do it?
So Field Day is a event that is hosted by the American Radio Relay League. Happens fourth weekend of June every year, and it's just like the hobby itself. It's many things, and it depends on how you want to treat it and what you want to get out of it. It could be a contest, even though the league does not claim for it to be a contest, even though there are rankings that are put out. And I looked at, actually last night before I came out to Field Day, at an issue of QST from back in the 1950s, and it was mentioned in it, just to look back at a June issue, see what Field Day announcements were like back then. And they mentioned back then that Field Day is not a contest. The only reason why we post listings is to provide a metric for you to compare how you're doing against your peers in an environment where you want to get out in the field, exercise your equipment, exercise your skills, away from commercial mains, even though there's categories to do it from the comfort of your home or your EOC, and see how you're doing with your peers comparatively. But Field Day is treated as a contest if you want to. It's treated as an emergency communications exercise. It's very much unscripted, which is valuable in its own right, where you set up in an area from scratch. An amateur radio station pops up out of the ground. You operate it as effectively as you can for 24 hours, and then you tear it down, find out what your lessons learned are, and apply them. And then, of course, there's the social aspect of Field Day as well, where it's a community event, unlike contests, which are more team and individual events. Field Day is more of a community event where you get the amateur radio community together, of course, get on the air and have a great time, but also get a chance to catch up with old friends, help new hams get acquainted with amateur radio in a very comfortable way, and, of course, sharpen your operating skills, which we ought to be doing all the time.
Great. Well, that's a good safe way we can go and take a look at some of the stations.
Absolutely, let's do it.
What it happens.
Let me step back here and I'll let you take some video. So this is the phone station for W5MPZ, which is the Field Day station that we have on the air right now. I've got a 756 Pro 3. Actually, this is the one that I have at my home shack, running N3FJP for the logging. The logging between this station, which is exclusively phone, and our CW station and our 6-meter station is being done via mesh networking using broadband hamnet. All of our stations are being powered exclusively via deep cycle battery and solar. We do have a small generator going to help with charging if we need to, and to run other non-radio peripherals, but the stations themselves are self-contained and being powered by battery. So we're operating anywhere from 80 meters through 10 meters with this station, as well as our CW station. And the CW station, which we'll see here in a second, is located several hundred yards away, mainly for interference mitigation, since we're so close. And we also have bandpass filters, and we're staying on different bands as well, just to further mitigate interference from each other.
So now, for the people that don't know, this was just put up mobile just recently, yesterday.
Yes, so Field Day started at 12 o'clock noon, New Mexico time. We arrived here at about 12 o'clock noon yesterday, Friday, and started setting up a couple hours after that. So everything that you'll see here was put up from scratch less than 24 hours ago, probably less than 18 hours ago, to be quite honest. And that's the whole purpose of Field Day, or one of the purposes, is to demonstrate our ability to establish an operational station, not necessarily tied to commercial mains, which we certainly are not, and be on the air with it and communicating as effectively as we can. And that's the measure of talking to as many people as you can within the 24 hours.
Tell us what he's doing right now. He's calling call signs out.
So this is Dave from Socorro, KB5YIW, Dave Johnson, he recently presided over the Socorro Amateur Radio Association. Tom Ellis, K5TEE, who's logging. These two are operating as an operator and logging team, just to make it more effective, where we have one person running the radio exclusively, one person logging for them exclusively. They're communicating back and forth with hand signals and such to make sure that they're not getting dupes, or that it's a station that we need, or if maybe Tom interprets something through the noise that Dave is not, they're helping each other. So Dave is, what he's doing is called searching and pouncing, where he's tuning up and down the band on 20 meters right now, and he's working stations that they haven't talked to yet, and making the necessary exchange and the contact. In contesting, there's the other mode, which is called running a frequency, where you would just sit on a frequency and you are the one calling CQ and making everybody basically come to you. Your contact rates go through the roof when you are running a frequency, but unfortunately, as is the case a lot with the first hours of field day, the bands are just saturated with people. It's hard to find any elbow room to get in there and run a frequency. So we're getting some points in the meantime, until things thin out a bit, and then we'll settle in on a frequency and probably run the rest of the contest in frequency running mode.
Right. Okay, can you show us what this station is hooked up to an antenna?
Absolutely. Let's go find that. Watch your step. Here's our solar panels that you can see here that we are constantly charging the batteries with. We've got several panels here at this site. The CW station has its own panels, and the 6-meter station has its own panels. And we're just basically backfilling the batteries as we draw them down through operating. What you can see over here are two antennas. The most obvious one is on a trailer-mounted 50-foot pneumatic locking mast. We've got a tri-band Yagi at the top. This mast is owned by Rocky Mountain Ham Radio, which is one of the organizations that's running this operation, in addition to the Sandia National Labs Amateur Radio Club. That's the call sign we're using, which is W5MPZ. This trailer belongs to Rocky Mountain Ham Radio, and we just rolled it up, blew it up with a compressor and a small generator, and we've got ourselves the equivalent of a tower right here in the field. Above it is a Buckmaster off-center fed dipole, which is good from 80 through 10. Not so well on 15 or 30 just because of the nature of the antenna, but we can tune it up on 15 and do all right with it. Of course, field day isn't on the work band, so we don't worry about 30 meters. And this is a 130-foot long dipole. Got the American flag and the ARRL flag up there. Of course, it got kind of tied up with the wind. And we put this up using a pneumatic spud gun.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at that.
Yes, we'll see if we can get it out and maybe even try a test shot if you'd like.
Two 9-volt batteries are used to power a standard 1-inch sprinkler valve.
At the bottom, 14,
so those two batteries do that. That'll release the air into the barrel here, which is a piece of 1.25 inch PVC pipe.
Right.
And then you have the pig, as we call it, with the 3/4 inch PVC pipe with the caps on each end. Drops in, and off she goes. And the pressure, we pump it up about 20 seconds on an automotive air compressor here, running off 12 volts. We'll shoot this over with a fishing reel attached to the fishing line with a reel,
right,
and shoot it over a tree. And the only problem is trees aren't tall enough anymore.
All right, we're going to see this in action.
What's interesting about this is you will see a pig fly.
Yes, you will see a pig fly. Pigs do fly.
So, all right, we're looking forward to it.
Let's head over to the, I guess this is truck there, and charge us up, eh, Pat?
Yep.
Yeah, we're long enough.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so
Using a
so let's plug this in first, Pat.
I'm just going to do it.
Okay.
Get them held.
I'd like to catch some video when you're ready to shoot it too. So just before firing the hole,
Yeah, that's right.
You don't want to launch your motor, but
No, this one is. Give it about 20 seconds. There's 20 seconds of that. Now we'll take the pig. Let's make the pig fly. Drop her in there.
wait a second.
And I'm going to shoot that way there. So we're going to come over here.
Camper there.
We're going to shoot right down into that field there.
Let me try to get behind you so I can get
You
you
bet.
in and when it goes, alright?
You ready? Get yourself positioned. Everybody ready?
All right.
Okay. Fire in the hole. 3, 2, 1. Like I said.
Awesome.
Holy cow.
Trees aren't tall enough anymore.
That's cool.
And the spud gun plans came right out of the pages of QST magazine. And there's only one problem with that spud gun, and that is they don't make trees, at least in this part of the country, tall enough for it. It's just an incredible tool to get antennas way high, more so than a slingshot or bow and arrow, which a lot of people have done in the past.
All right, let's go over to the other station, the CW.
Let's do it. Okay, so what we're looking at here is our CW station that is in operation here at the W5MPZ field day operation. Just like the phone station, we've got two operators, one exclusively working CW on the radio. That is Howard PV, K9 PV, and we have Dennis Dixon, WA5TYJ, who is logging for him. Sitting behind the crew at the ready here is Chris Petroff, W5CBP, and this is our exclusive CW and digital station. We're not doing any digital yet. We've got a good couple of rabid CW operators who are doing their thing, and they'll be tapping away on the key there for many hours to come. Just like the last station, we're logging with N3FJP. We are also networking the logs or the logging stations through mesh networking, so you can see the router there. And just like all the other stations, it's all battery and powered, or battery and solar powered as well. And if you would like, I can show you those antennas that we're running for the CW station. Charging of the batteries as we draw them down. CW isn't as bad because it's very low duty cycle, but nevertheless we want to stay topped off. What you're looking at off in the distance is 40 feet of Roan 25 tower with a little Mosley TA33 mini beam on top. We have a larger, higher gain Yagi that we've normally used, but it's being repaired now, so this is what we were able to get together in time for field day. About 7 of us raised this tower yesterday from the ground, put all the sections together, lifted it up, had people on the ropes, and it went up like clockwork, and it'll go down like clockwork as well. What you'll notice on this antenna and the other antennas is we don't have rotors. One, because most of our stations that we're working are towards the east and the north, and we're beaming in those directions. And what California and Pacific Northwest stations will work, we'll just get off the back of the beam.
For the non-ham, tell us, what in the world is CW?
CW is Morse code, so it's abbreviation for continuous wave, and it's what we call quickly Morse code. Dits and DAWs and amateur radio, or field day, that is, like amateur radio, consists of a ton of operations on a ton of modes. There's special incentive to use data and Morse code to make your contacts from a point value, whereas a voice contact is 1 point, a Morse code or data contact is worth 2 points each. It's just a great welcoming event like Field Day is, where we start attracting hardcore CW operators or data operators, and they literally get a chance to operate until their heart's content over the span of 24 hours with everybody across America and Canada trying to do the same. So there's plenty of activity.
Great. Okay, well, Scott, give us your call sign and who you are. Who are you?
I'm Scott Webb, N5ZGT.
All right, great. What am I looking up there?
That's a 6-meter 3-element Yagi, and we suspended it between 2 trees that are probably 100 foot tall.
Wow.
And you can see it's moving around just a little bit, but with a 3-element Yagi, it's got such a wide beam that it probably doesn't matter too much.
So high winds, is it going to stay there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Oh
That'd be all
yeah,
right?
Mark, it's going to stay up there all day.
Show us what's going on in
Sure.
here.
This is my little station. And by the way, this is the same station we set up where the Caravan Club won the expedition category this year for the New Mexico QSO party.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
All right,
so-
yeah.
Pretty much the same station. And
Wow.
we've got an ICOM 7000.
Right.
And right now, if you want to look at that, I've got that scanning into 6-meter frequencies.
Yeah.
And you can see it's just dead. We've got
Right.
nothing at all throughout, the whole range.
Right.
And
this is 2015 field day, by the way. So
yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here I've got my laptop, and what we have here is the N5ZGT software,
Right.
logging software, and we have that linked together with a mesh node.
Right.
So all 3 of our stations here on field day are linked together using mesh, and it's 2.4 gigahertz, but
Right.
we're using the amateur radio portion of the band. So this is amateur radio as well.
Right. Now tell the viewers what is mesh. 'Cause some of us may not be up to speed on that.
Okay, it's basically we've built our own network
Right.
on 2.4 gigahertz.
Right.
And one of the computers over at the other station has a server,
Okay.
and so all 3 of our logging stations are on the same server.
Right.
So
Using this router.
using this router, and so I can see what the other stations are doing. So we've got another station here on 20 meter phone. We've got another one on 15 meter CW,
Okay.
and then over here is our station here, 6-meter phone.
I see. And they all can see each other and talk to each other.
Yes, you can, and there's some other nice features about this software. For example, these are the states that we've worked.
Wow, that's cool.
And so that'll auto-populate as we make contacts throughout the day and the night.
Yeah.
And you can see our QSO rates over here. So
Where are you at? I lost you.
I'm right over here.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right over
Okay.
here.
Gotcha.
So we're not doing too good. It's kind of a slow start, but the bands need to come around for us.
Right.
But like I said, I'm just patiently waiting for 6 meters to open.
To open up. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we wish you good luck.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Yeah. We're going to be interviewing Brian, ZGT, in a little while. So,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah, well, this is a typical field day for this group up here at this camp.
Okay, show us your solar panels here.
Sure. These are 2 Rhenology 100-watt panels.
Okay.
So I'm putting out 200 watts altogether. And then I run it over into a charge controller that's in this box.
Oh, yeah.
And so then from the charge controller, I can charge batteries.
Right.
And with 200 watts, I'm sure I could probably even run a station. But
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. All right. All righty. You are the American Radio Relay League Rocky Mountain Division Director.
Yes.
Tell us what your responsibilities and what's all that about.
So the ARRL, of course, the National Organization for Amateur Radio, is governed by 16 directors who set the policy for the organization. And those 15 directors, of course, represent a geographical area that makes up the United States and some of its territories. So I'm the director of the Rocky Mountain Division, which is composed of the New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, and Wyoming sections. And my job on the board is to represent the members on the board of directors when it comes to policy matters that affect them or affect the organization. It's a little different than being a director, say within a local club. The fiduciary responsibilities, of course, are the same, but the ARRL, being a large organization, actually employs about 100 people back in Connecticut. So I'm on the board as a director, much like you would for a company, in that we're also not only concerned with what the members want or need of their organization, but also the employees of the organization, things like their health care and retirement and those organizational matters that affect our employees. So finances, programs, services, merit reviews to an extent, all the above is what the directors engage in, and we do it on behalf of amateur radio in the United States and the world.
So if I'm an amateur radio operator and I have a problem, let's say with my neighbor, I can come to you for guidance on how to solve those issues.
It depends on what the problem is. There might be more appropriate people to go to. For instance, each of the geographical areas that I mentioned is led by an elected section manager. In the case of New Mexico, that's Ed James, K8JMW. And the section manager oversees a big team of volunteers that makes up what's called the field organization. And these are the folks that volunteer to serve in many capacities that the member will actually get touched by, such as technical coordinators, official observers, emergency communication type roles, government and legislative matters and such. So there might be, with that neighborly problem that you mentioned, an issue that could be best addressed by one of those individuals. If it has to do with amateur radio, specifically the ARRL, and a policy matter, that's where it's very appropriate to talk to the director, since that's sort of our bailiwick.
I see. Well, speaking about events coming up, and you're involved in events, the Duke City Hamfest is coming up in about a month or so.
Yes.
What date is it again?
I believe that's going to be August 7 through 9.
7 through 9, okay.
Second weekend in August.
Okay, I thought it was around then, and 8th and so forth. And tell us, this video is seen around the world. What is it, and what do we do there?
Absolutely. So the Duke City Hamfest, it's been a great event happening since the 70s here in New Mexico, and it's grown and grown and grown. Duke City Hamfest serves many different functions. First of all, your traditional Hamfest, where you can buy, sell, trade equipment, go see a ton of technical and non-technical forums, advance your education and technical art, if you will. Competitions, vendors, exhibitors, banquets, guest speakers, etc. And the Hamfest has traditionally also served as the New Mexico State ARRL convention. So there's a lot of league-centric activities that happen within the event itself for the amateur to enjoy. If I were to summarize it in a nutshell, no matter what you're interested in amateur radio, there will be something there for you to enjoy over the course of the weekend at the Hamfest. So that will take place that second weekend of August at the Marriott Pyramid Hotel in Albuquerque. I know that the leadership and board of the Hamfest is really trying to convert it into a regional Hamfest, since there really is none in this area, and they're heading in that direction, certainly.
Do I have to be a ham to go?
Absolutely
And
not.
can I bring my family?
Absolutely. Anybody's welcome to come to it. If you are an amateur radio operator to the bone, that's your place. If you've never heard of amateur radio but are just merely fascinated what it's all about, that's also your place to learn all about it, meet tons of people, and see a lot within a weekend that you normally wouldn't see perhaps in the course of a year in amateur radio.
Do I have to be a member with the ARRL?
No. Of course, I would appreciate it if you are. A strong ARRL helps create a strong amateur radio hobby, but you definitely don't need to be a member to enjoy this Hamfest, or for that matter, any Hamfest around the state of New Mexico.
Right.
They're open to anybody.
Right. Speaking of New Mexico, What do you think is the state of ham radio in the state of New Mexico right now?
I think the state of amateur radio is strong. Nationally, over the last 10, 15 years, activity levels have declined in amateur radio just because of new hobbies, new pastimes that have come up that have attracted the interest of people, but also an older demographic of amateur radio that unfortunately has moved on. And so while activity is a little bit lower than it was in years past, I think the state of amateur radio in New Mexico is quite strong. We are blessed with a ton of technical folks across New Mexico because of the military installations we have, Sandia and Los Alamos National Labs, Intel, and a lot of other technical places. And so you've got hams who are employed there who are technical to the bone as it is, and they, of course, pour that back into the hobby, and that makes it a very unique situation for New Mexico compared to other places. But also, just the people are active on the air, very welcoming, and always encouraging when it comes to new folks joining our ranks, and that will, of course, seed the future for amateur radio in New Mexico.
Yeah, speaking of new people, I mean, I don't want you to tell your age, but you're kind of a young guy.
I'm 35, licensed when I was 12.
So how do you think we bring in and attract younger hams?
That question's been asked a ton of times, and it's unfortunately not a simple question to answer because it varies depending on how young or how old that young ham is that you're looking for. Because their interests are different as they grow. The bottom line, in my opinion, is to appeal to them. There's a lot of other activities out there that are competing for their time, which is limited to begin with, and their interests. And I think to really strike a chord with them when it comes to amateur radio, it's to get them in the middle of something like Field Day here or any other event, and get them into the action rather than merely talking about it. Hands-on, put them in the middle of a pile-up, of course, help them so they don't get too discouraged because of how crazy that is, but make it to where amateur radio is insatiable for them and they want more. Or appeal to them if you're looking at, say, a high school age or college age person who might be interested in some technical aspects. This is a technical playground, and what they might be learning about in school on the theoretical side, this is a whole world that is their practical playground, and that might appeal to them as well as far as getting a hook in. But the key of the matter is getting them involved and then following up with them and keeping them involved, giving them a stake into the success of, say, a club by giving them a small responsibility that they can deliver on and be proud of and develop some pride for the hobby, and then the rest will kind of work itself out, I think.
Right. Well, getting off of some serious matters there, what kind of radios? We're not at your shack. I mean, maybe
No.
later on we can make a trip to your house.
Absolutely.
What kind of radios do you have at your shack?
You're at my outdoor shack.
Yeah, right.
Field Day. What a wonderful weekend. I'm pretty simple at home. One, because I've got a growing family and a job and other activities, so I don't have the time to really outfit my station with a ton of gear as much as I'd love to, and that'll happen at some point, I'm sure. Yeah. But I run a ICOM 756 Pro 3 as my HF and 6-meter radio. It's a great radio, and I'll probably use it until it dies on its own. I've got a ICOM ID880, which is my 2-meter 440 radio, but I also use it for D-Star. A couple small, older HTs, Yaesu VX150, just simple stuff. And then I'm also active on DMR, which is also known as Moto Turbo, so I've got a DMR handheld as well to take part in that. Other radios I've got stashed aside that I just haven't had time to get to is a variety of QRP radios that I've either built or haven't started building yet or have bought, and that's always fun to take out to the field.
You sort of answered the next question a little bit, but we'll close with this one, with the future of ham radio, not only in the state but around the country. I heard that we're at the highest of license throughout the history. What do you think is the future?
I think the future is up to us. I think it's a great future, but it's wholly dependent on the amateur radio community itself. I mean, there's external factors such as spectrum issues and covenants, conditions, restrictions, and things like that can inhibit people's enjoyment in the hobby. But by and large, it's an internal issue on where amateur radio goes, and I think that we have every tool and every resource to keep this hobby strong and make it stronger as time goes on. In my opinion, the bottom lines are to be active on the air, the doing part rather than the watching part. Stay active, keep sharpening your skills, keep rallying people to do interesting events and such as field day or taking a road trip to a hamfest, and just keep making it interesting and a brand new hobby every day because there is so much to do. Rather than getting in a rut and just enjoying one aspect of it, because that only provides so much enjoyment when there's so much more out there. So the state of amateur radio in the future, it's extremely bright, and we've got the people and the means to make that happen as a community.
And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. That's rule number one.
I want to thank you so much.
Absolutely.
God
Thanks,
bless
Mark.
you.